Sometime when the 2020, two geeks from social media formed an alliance to bring you geek news from across the Nostalgiaverse. They are Jacob's Toys and SuperSorrell. Bringing you a weekly live show, toy news, TV and movie reviews, special guests, opinions, tangents, and bad impressions, reveals, releases, thoughts, maybe dreams. Now prepare for the Geek Week in Review.
I saw you putting it on. I was like, what is he doing? Welcome back, everyone. Geek Week in Review, episode 117 with me, Jacob's Toys, and of course, the wonderful one and only SuperSorrell in his Halloween mask. It's not Halloween yet, Sorrell.
44 days! 44 days and counting!
Yes, we're getting there. We're getting there. If you are new to the show, then do check us out. All of our socials are there. Ryan's is still there as well, so go and give him a follow. He's posting a couple of things out.
Don't follow Ryan. No one cares about Ryan. It's not Wednesday. It's Sunday.
Traitor. If you're watching the show on repeat, then thank you very much. We do appreciate it. But hey, join us one day on a Sunday live and join him in the comments. Those people in the chat already, I see a few people saying hello. Stug, Andy, Shelley, Joby1, Viz. We will get to all the comments as we go through the show. We're here to just talk about the Geek Week in Review. This is the Geek Week. There's lots to talk about, but there's not so much to talk about. There was an absolute masterpiece of a television episode for us. We have to discuss that. And our spotlight of the week's a little bit special this week. We're going to talk a little bit about collecting and why you get into it, why you get out of it, why you change it up, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, how's your week been anyway, Sorrell?
Mate, I literally this week, I've spent my entire week getting into heavily Disney Locana.
You're still on it. You're still on that one.
Mate, I have got about... about 5 decks on the go. I have got another 3 here that I'm currently building up. I've got a villains deck, which I'm so happy with. I've got a Dr. Facilier and Cruella de Vil deck.
Oh, wow.
So, literally, I am the sorcerer of all evil with Maleficent and some of the awesome cards. I've been to the local gaming store 4 times this week.
Wow.
And I spent 200 quid on cards, not going to lie. And
Ooh.
I know. But I've now got like nearly all of the first chapter, as they're calling it, and I've been playing competitions and stuff, and I've been really enjoying the game.
Amazing. I think that's a cool thing though, because there's so many card games and all that kind of stuff out and about. And
the beauty thing about Locana is it's just starting. So if you want to get into it with your kids now, you're like, if you go try and get your kids into Pokemon now, there are so many people out there with so many cards that they just destroy you in seconds. They've got like 10 Mewtwo's in the deck and they just rip you apart. Whereas Locana, you're starting from the ground up with everybody else. There's only 100 cards, like about 200 cards, I think it is available now. And that's all that's available. So they can only use the cards available right now. It's not like there's 10 years of backstock for them to play with. So it's like coming on the ground up, isn't it?
And if Pokemon's taught us anything, now is the time to get on it. Like with a new card game like that, especially backed by Disney, you know, that base set is going to be worth a lot of money in the future if you get hold of it and keep hold of it.
And the fact that they've already said chapter 2 comes out this December and gives us a whole, like the whole thing behind it is awesome. So the idea being that you need ink to create the characters because you're basically casting spells that are made of ink, like Disney. Right. So you use the ink cards to cast your different like characters and stuff. And sometimes the ink gets smudged and certain characters become new characters. So there's one where Captain Hook's been dusted by Tinkerbell so he can fly. So there's like a flying Captain Hook card, and there's Winnie the Pooh as a sorcerer and things like that. So like
I've seen the artwork for that actually.
Yeah, so some of the characters have been messed up. There's one of Belle that's been crossed with Robin Hood, and she's now an archer, and she's like a monster hunter herself, kind of thing. So there's some really cool concepts out there, and the card game is so easy to pick up. It's a bit like Hearthstone if you ever played that back in the day. It's a bit like that, but no, it's an amazing game.
It's funny you mentioned Pokemon as well, because like my eldest is massively into Pokemon. So is my youngest boy actually, but my eldest much more about collecting. And it's not about playing the game; it's about collecting the
Just the
cards.
cards.
So to get on board with something now where you can actually play the game is quite exciting.
The best part is all the artwork is based on things from the films. So like there's a card here called Vicious Betrayal, which is obviously Scar throwing Mufasa. So literally I was sat in a room full of blokes, all grown ass men like me, and we were sat there and like someone played that card and literally went, "Long live the king," and threw it down. Everyone's quoting the films because that's, you know, no one plays.
Cool.
Nobody plays I've Got Friends on the Other Side without singing it. Everyone's like, "I've got friends on the other side."
That's cool. That is cool. That is cool.
I never thought I'd hear the words of 6 grown-ass men sat around a table going, "Well, I'm casting Ariel for 6 points." And on a quest.
But it's cool. It's cool to have. I mean, I'm surprised we haven't had like a Disney card game to this extent already.
Seriously, yeah. And just imagine the possibilities in the future, because they've not even touched Pixar. They've not touched. Imagine if they get the rights to do Marvel, Star Wars. Just slowly add them to the decks, like the parks and stuff could be included. There's so much cool stuff that could, I mean, like each park could have its own deck available to buy when in the parks. You know,
how much is a
Paris deck?
How much is a pack of cards?
So a pack of cards is £4, same as Pokemon. And the starter decks, there's 3 available, and they're $12.99 each, which isn't bad at all. You get like 100 cards, a rule book of how to play. You get a code to download the app, and then you can start tracking the cards on your phone. So you know what you've got and stuff.
That might be opening a new collection. I might be starting a new collection. I kind of got back into my cards recently, not in a massive way, but just like through Panini and stuff. Like I've collected. I think I mentioned this a couple of weeks back, but I did like the Spider-Man, the Avengers, the Marvel verses, like, and I'm a bit of a completionist, so I was kind of like I had to get the whole deck and picked it all up. Yeah, I might have a look at it.
So I've been playing the game, but my wife, she likes, like you're saying, like the card part of it, the collecting. She wants one of every card. So basically, when I'm opening the packs, and I'm like, well, I've already got, because you can only have 4 of each one in the deck. So I was like, well, I've already got 4 Jafars, I've already got 4 of that one. So she's taking all these extra ones that I'm opening up. She's like, yep, slot. So
are there any real like chase cards like the Charizard?
Oh, yeah. So basically, there's a part of the game which is called Shift. See if I can find my Shift card right quick. But basically, here we go. So you've got a regular Dr. Facilier card, and then during the game, he can basically gain more ink, as they call it, and become more powerful. So you have a regular Dr. Facilier on the field, and then you draw this card, which is the Shift card. And basically, it's like a all-powered Dr. Facilier. And you play that on top of your regular one, and he becomes this like big, like giant Dr. Facilier that's like, it says Into the Shadows. He banishes all characters on the field when played. So basically, I play that, and all the other side gets just eradicated.
That's amazing. That is amazing.
So there's cards like that are really, the artwork on them are beautiful as well.
Yeah, man. Yeah, definitely. And I suppose there's a big gap in the market for that as well now, because like when it comes to like Pokemon opening cards and Pokemon collecting cards, like there are so many collectors out there sort of doing it and collecting it. To have something new on the market is quite exciting. Yeah,
and there's just little cards like Stampede. So if someone's got Mufasa out, there's nothing better than sending a Stampede after him.
Dark, man, dark.
So yeah, that's the thing. The thing that I've loved about it more than anything, I knew straight away that I love the villains, so I wanted a villains class deck. So all my cards are evil. That's the whole point. It's fun. And basically, I'm playing against like 10-year-olds that are like, oh, I'm going to send out my heroes. And I'm like, good job, because I've got nothing but villains. Let's play. And I'm sat there playing the bad guy, and it's fun.
Amazing. Okay, I think we need to address a certain television episode first up, because there's going to be a big talking point on that. For those viewers that have been kind of following along with me watching From as well, I finally got to the end of season 2. And man, I was disappointed in the ending.
Oh, no.
massively disappointed on that cliffhanger. Like, massively. I won't say about it yet, because there might be people that are still watching it. But yeah, I was a bit shocked. So I really do hope there's another season. But let's talk about Ahsoka, episode 5, wasn't it? Directed by Dave Filoni. We knew this was going to be a big one, because he's directing 3 in the series, and we knew that this one was going to be a big one. Anyone that hasn't watched it yet, I'm not sure why you've sat on it and not watched it yet, but there will be spoilers. We're going to talk a little bit about that particular episode. Whew, where do we start?
It was mainly just one giant force vision for Ahsoka, most of it, wasn't it? To be honest, it was awesome.
It was a really good kind of journey, wasn't it, for her? Like, there were other characters in it, wasn't there? That we did see other people outside of her journey, but yeah, amazing.
Even the person playing, I'm not sure who the actress was playing the young Ahsoka, but she was good for the short cameo role she played. She was good in that. I would happily pay to see, like, even if they only made 3 or 4 episodes, see a Clone Wars little story arc play out in live action now. I would love that.
Well, that's the thing is we got a live action Clone Wars, even if it was just 1 episode, we got it, and man, it looked good. Like, it looked good. Like, it all worked. You know, I think the only criticism I'd have is the Clone Wars. The clone troopers did feel very CGI'd. Do you know what I mean?
Because obviously he wasn't there. He wasn't around to do the casting. He was doing Aquaman. He was filming Aquaman at the time, so he's not around. So it was a shame because obviously we did get, you know, a bit of they did use voice clips from Clone Wars to make it seem like Rex was there, but it would have been cool to have Rex take off his helmet and have have Ahsoka and Rex together.
That was the one thing that if I had any criticism, it would be that if they we had Rex, like we saw him, he was there, he was in real life. Like, if we could have just got him in live action, then yeah, that would have been really cool. Let me just hang on. I just need to address something. But yeah, talk about it for a sec. I'm here.
So
Shelley said in the comments, did anyone go to the cinema to watch it? Because obviously with some places they did show this episode in the theaters. I didn't. I watched it at home.
So did you see that it was Ariana Greenblatt that played the young Ahsoka? Because she was basically the girl that played young Gamora. It's the same little girl.
Oh,
she's
cool.
Grown up a bit now. But yeah, it's the same little kid basically.
Oh, wicked.
So yeah, she was brought back to play young Ahsoka, and she did it really well.
Yeah, she was really good
playing that. We did get Tamara Morrison. It was his voice, but I believe it wasn't anything new that he recorded for it. But my favorite in this whole setup was seeing both sides of Anakin. So we start out and he's trying to, he's teaching her, but then obviously it's still the dark side Anakin that's at the end because he's got the red saber and stuff.
And that switch with the makeup and the eyes was really cool.
Very cool. Yeah, I really liked that. The episode also mentioned Kanan again. We got another mention of Kanan and Jaqen, and they're building up something there.
Yeah.
So,
I still think we're going to see him. I really do. I think we're going to see the Rebels lineup. It just feels like there's too much of a build-up, and it feels like too much of a missed opportunity. They're giving us so much live action. Sorry, I'm with you. I just need to do something quick.
No worries.
I am in the room. I'm just checking something.
So yeah, this I'm not quite sure if it was the will between worlds or whether it was just a force vision. They didn't really address that. They kind of left that quite ambiguous.
No, there was no.
It was open to interpretation, really.
There's a couple of things, like the whole kind of I didn't expect you to see you so soon, all that kind of stuff. Made it seem very much like it was the kind of the next, what do they call it? Not like the afterlife as such, but the next place.
Yeah.
But then she could have kind of thought that up in her own head, like that's
That's what. Yeah, this is what I didn't get. It definitely wasn't. It didn't. It looked like the will between worlds, but it wasn't. And obviously she's in the water drowning. Why would if the force was going to drop her back in to survive? Why would it drop her there? So I mean, there was not any of that feeling of it saved her. It was just kind of she was floating in the ocean somewhere, drowning slowly and having visions.
No, That was the bit I didn't get at the end, the way she was just kind of floating in the water. Like, did she come from somewhere, or is that just where she had been the whole time? Like,
well, she fell off the cliff in the last episode. That guy struck her down, didn't he? He struck the lightsaber, so she fell backwards into the water. So she's literally just been floating there, drowning.
But she was like underwater, wasn't she, when they got her?
Yeah. Oh yeah, she was full underwater, and she was under there quite a while.
Yeah. Well, what did you make of the kind of the naked scene where she didn't have her headband on, and you could just see the orange into white?
Bald Ahsoka.
Felt a little bit awkward. I felt a bit wrong seeing that. You know what I mean? It was kind of like I'd kind of caught.
I didn't really give it much thought, to be honest. I knew something looked different, but I couldn't. It took me ages to put my finger on what it was. And it was only on the repeat. Headband was missing.
It was only on the repeat because then obviously the young Ahsoka's got the younger headband.
Yeah.
And then it was only when it got to her and I was like, oh, she's not got something on. Like, that's really odd. Like, I don't know. Like, in my head, there was always just that was part of her head. Like the same as Hera's got goggles on her head. Like, if she didn't have them goggles on her head, it would be a bit like, hang on. But she never wears them. Like, it's like I don't think she's ever put them on, but they're just there. And yeah, Ahsoka just having the headband, it was kind of an odd thing. But the fights in it, the lightsaber duels were insane. I thought it was just so well done.
So, did you get the gentle nod to she seems to have gone back to being Ahsoka the White now, a bit like Gandalf?
Mate, that costume at the end was brilliant.
Well, that's the one that she wears when she comes back in Rebels, when she's got the big staff and the owl starts following her and stuff. She seems to have gone back to that version of herself again. Like, she's gone back to being the I don't say spiritual version, but like she's gone back to being like a very Zen looking version of Ahsoka.
Yeah, I see it very much as like a higher level. Do you know what I mean? Like she ascends to this kind of same
like
as
the Gandalf the White kind of thing. Yeah, it's that same sort of thing, isn't it? She's gone from the grey version to the white version.
Yeah. I'm just trying to catch up with all the comments. People are talking in the comments about what they think things were and that kind of stuff. So we will catch to some things when we see it. But yeah, I really like that, and I thought that was a cool look for Ahsoka. Like I'm not a massive fan of her costume as it is, whereas the white kind of I'm gonna talk to a whale. Like let's just recreate Pinocchio and travel in a whale. Like that's just it was. I'm a bit glad that Hera didn't go with them though. I kind of expected her to go in, and then a couple of the other ships to all follow in. It was a little bit like, oh, okay.
Yeah, she's got to be around for the timeline to work, so she's got to be around at this point. Because obviously she's featured late. It's convoluted, isn't it? Because we've got the sequel timeline slowly coming into play now, and Hera is around at the Force Awakens. Her ship's seen in the sequel movies. Her ship is around at the Rebel base.
Oh yeah,
and Chopper's seen in Force Awakens, isn't he, for the first time?
Yes.
So they're in the background somewhere in Force Awakens, if I remember rightly. So that is all coming into play now. So they have to be there. They can't go. And we know that Ahsoka dies before the end of the sequel trilogy because her voice is featured at the end, along with Kanan's, along with Ezra's, they're all featured at the end.
Spoilers! I didn't even remember that.
So they're all gone at that point. So something's got to happen.
But I think that's going to be more movie or post-movie. I think
she's going to die. If Dave Filoni's going to kill off Ahsoka Tano and give her a meaningful death, it'll be the movie, and he'll give her one hell of an ending. She'll die like Boromir with like 50 arrows in her.
Yeah. She's just such a cool character. And I think for a character that was introduced and actually really hated when she was introduced, she got so much hate. I think she's one of my favorite Star Wars characters across the franchise. There's just something very cool about her.
Yeah, so Jaqen could hear the lightsabers. He could basically hear wherever she was. He heard the Force vision. So he's well sensitive. He's like really sensitive. He could hear that. He could sense she was in trouble. Yeah. He could sense she was in trouble, and he could hear the lightsabers under the water, like wherever she was. So that he's got a good storyline coming up. I think they're definitely building his character up.
And there's so much opportunity because these characters kind of came from animation. There's nothing saying that they couldn't continue his story in animation, like, and almost give us a Rebels season 5 or whatever that focuses around him and his story or whatever. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be live action, which is I think what the beauty is with this kind of mix and match.
At the moment, they know that Luke's building a Jedi school. That's as much as we know so far. We don't particularly want him to go there because he'll die, because Kylo Ren will go a bit nuts. But there is the idea that in the future, Rey's going to build hers, and there's still we still have I forgot his name, Jedi Survivor guy kicking around the galaxy. He's still around.
What's his name?
Yeah, so.
What's his name?
I can't think of his name off the top of my head now. His name has literally vanished out of my head. But yeah, he's still around. And of course, if they bring Ezra back, he could start doing training Jedis and stuff. So there's some cool characters that are like trying to rebuild the Jedi Order.
I would quite like them to bring him into Rey's storyline. Cal Kestis. There we go. Thank you very much, Joby. And Tarek there as well, with Cal Kestis coming in very, very closely behind Joby one there.
Because can you imagine how it would pee off a lot of old school people? I will not lie. But imagine if there's like at the end of Rey's thing, she's rebuilt the Jedi Order, and the people on the Jedi Council end up being like Rey, Jack and Syndulla, Ezra Bridger, all the characters from the sequel trilogies and cartoons that all the old school people hate.
Yeah, but it would be quite a redeeming arc for Rey's storyline for her to kind of have that opportunity. I would quite like them to see. I'd like them to see them do something like that gives kind of Rey's storyline and the new trilogy characters more weight and all that kind of stuff. Because let's be honest, when the prequels came out, everyone hated them. 10 years afterwards, everyone loved them. And look how much people love Hayden Christensen now. And at the time, he was hated for it. Absolutely hated for it. The same as Ahsoka. When the character came out, they absolutely hated it. But I think
Star Wars, you just got to give it time.
Yeah. So it's got to age a little bit. You got to kind of appreciate it at the time it comes out, and then kind of come back to it a few years later, and then you realize how good it is. Tarek said in the comments, I'm hoping for Cal to show up in the Mando Ahsoka movie, depending on the plans for his next game. Yeah. I mean, that's a big possibility. We've already seen BD1, haven't we? Was it Mandalorian or Boba Fett?
Mandalorian, yeah. One of them. No, sorry, it was Boba Fett, wasn't it? It was the episode where Mando turned up in Boba Fett.
Yes. I think that's definitely an option. And even just seeing him, I can't remember the actor's name, but seeing him in the advertisements when he was doing all the lightsaber stuff, all the mocap stuff with Mark Hamill as well, wasn't he? He was there. Yep. But he looks the part. He would just fit so well as a live action version, and it'd be such a nice. If they don't jump on that before he's too old to do it or looks too different, it's ridiculous.
I really thought they were going to do it with Kenobi. That made the perfect sense timeline wise to include him, was the Kenobi. Have him meet Obi-Wan Kenobi. That would have been the best little nod and make him feel part of the larger galaxy. Yeah.
But as far as an episode goes, this is definitely one of the best Star Wars TV episodes I think we've had. It was just, for all the Clone Wars fans, it just gave us that little bit of thing, and everything on it just seemed very well executed. None of it kind of didn't fit or jarred. It was just, the whole thing was just wholesomely good, in my opinion. I liked it. I did like it. I watched Scream as well, Scream 5 for the first time. Have you seen it?
Yeah.
Of course you've seen it. Of course you've seen it. I loved it.
Even the ending? The reveal at the end. I loved the movie up until the ending.
The thing is I when it happened, I was like, oh, really? And then the more I thought about it, most of the Scream films have had that kind of reveal. Like none of them have been kind of jaw-dropping, oh my gosh, I didn't see it coming. And I quite like the franchise element of it. I don't like the fact that everyone's related to somebody from the first one. That's a little bit like, come on, they wouldn't know each other, let alone be friends. Like, let's be honest. But yeah, no Sydney wasn't around.
Yeah,
sends her love, basically. She's done with it. But no, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it as far as films go.
Because we'll pay what she's worth, sadly, which is a really real shame.
No, exactly. And I started watching that Tusk film that we were talking about.
No, yeah,
it is out. It is on Amazon Prime. Everyone is talking about it, and mate, it is messed up. It's just weird. It's just I wouldn't even class it as horror. It's just weird. Yeah. It just watch it if you've got absolutely nothing else to do.
Well, I thought I'd do that the other night. I went to see The Nun 2. They were all right.
Really? The marketing for that's been big though. They've really
and it's sold massively worldwide. Don't get me wrong. In itself, it's okay. I was just expecting more from a second Nun film. The first film was all about setting the scene, giving us the story. I assumed something really big was going to happen in this one, and nothing really. It was just kind of another mediocre jump scares in the dark Nun movie. But the post-credit scene made up for it. The post-credit scene made up for it.
Okay. Did you catch the post-credit scene in Scream?
Did that? I'm not sure if I did now.
It was a blink and you miss it. It was basically, when they're talking about the rules of the franchise.
Yeah.
It was literally her, and she went, "Not every movie needs a post-credit scene," and that was it. Oh. And it was kind of like, "But you've just given them one." Come on, like. And I watched Matrix as well. I watched the Matrix reimagined or whatever it's called, like Revolution.
Matrix that didn't need to be told. Matrix, the story that didn't need to be told.
I was just like the whole way through. I was kind of like the original Matrix films. They were the kind of thing that you watched them, you kind of had to think about it, maybe rewatch it, kind of get your head around it, and it was deep. Whereas this, I was watching, I just didn't understand it. I was like, "What? Hang on. So, did it happen? Like, is that Morpheus?"
It felt like I really liked the idea of the reboot because obviously a computer system reboots. That makes sense. So a new version of Morpheus is there. A new version of these characters appear.
Yeah.
But it didn't make sense as to why Neo was still Neo and he didn't reboot. And they should have had someone else playing Neo and just had a whole new cast and then done a reimagining. That would have been better. But it was the fact that they left those two characters in, but they could never be together. And it just felt like this dodgy love story in the middle of some sci-fi post-apocalyptic universe.
Yeah. I mean, there's some great scenes, but...
Yeah, there's some great stuff. But then it felt like towards about the third act of the movie, they just went, meh, I don't know what to do anymore. We'll just throw this love story ending in there and make everyone be happy at the end. Yeah, they can both be the one.
Yeah, why not? My favourite part of it, though, was seeing all the McFarlane toys that he has in his office at the beginning, because I had them all. I had all of those. I was literally like, yep, had. Like, they were like some of my really early action figure kind of completionist.
Because I love the concept that they've reimagined this, like they've re-put Neo into the Matrix, and to make him think it was all thing, they made him a video game developer that's made a game about the Matrix. That makes perfect sense to get him locked back into his own head. Yeah. The whole concept of it was cool. I think the story execution was just a bit lacking.
Yeah, no, I agree. I totally agree. We did say last week we were going to do like a giveaway or a guest this week, and obviously we clearly don't have a guest because we didn't ask anyone. But we could do a giveaway. I don't know how many people would be down for a giveaway this week. We'll see. If you want us to give something away, let us know in the comments, and we might do a giveaway. Why not?
I'll give away a picture that my daughter drew today. Yes, that's what you want. That's what everyone wants.
Yeah, if anyone wants to give away, let us know. We might do one. We might throw one in, or we could build it up for next week. All right. Okay. So, should we talk collecting?
Yeah.
Because we'll kind of segue into this. So, Hasbro HasLab has been out now for a few days. Did you see where it was at? The Giant Man.
Yeah. No, I haven't looked, to be honest.
It is not yet creeped over the 5,000. It is still at the kind of 4,738 was the last count I had. So it's not yet hit halfway mark.
No, it's still the same. 4,738.
Oh, there you go.
Exactly the same.
But they still have got the best part of 37 days.
Yeah.
So I think it's definitely going to fund. I find really interesting is it's kind of dividing the community again, but in a different way. So people are kind of going, yeah, this is great. It's only $200, £200. And then other people are kind of going, well, where's the tears? Do you know what I mean? And I've seen some really bizarre arguments about, oh, it's only 200 quid. Like, why, can't you afford it? Like, it's like, well, yeah, I can afford it, but I don't want it. Like, and there's these two kind of arguments. But I'm surprised it didn't fund quicker. But I think it will definitely fund. I think it will definitely creep past that 10,000 mark, if not open up a couple of the tiers as well. But yeah, so this week we're going to talk collecting just in general. As you've seen, like Sorrell's in a new room with a new collection, new bedspread, new lights. Like it's all there. Like guys live in it. And I've started to thin out a little bit of my Marvel Legends collection as well. You can see some really white gaps behind me here where I've started to thin out some things. So we just thought we'd have a little bit of a chat about collecting in general and like what brings you into it, what kind of takes you out of it. Why do people change lines? Why do people stick with lines? So that's the kind of where we're going with this conversation. How do you want to kick it off, Sorrell?
Yeah, I was just going to say, before we move on to that a little bit, you really mentioned HasLabs. Do you see that Emily did like a weird little tease this week as well about HasLab?
I did.
Hasbro?
Yeah.
That was weird, wasn't it? She was kind of more or less confirming that something's coming. Well, yeah. I'm trying to bring her Instagram up. Here we go. Yeah, so if you follow her, it's more phenomenally _Emily. She's the Hasbro rep for various projects, usually G.I. Joe, Power Rangers.
She's done loads, hasn't she? She's really cool as well. Like
she's really nice. Yeah,
I got to chat to her last year at MCM Comic Con, and she is really cool. Like she's a very cool person. She's very passionate about it and all the rest of it. But yeah, she did a post, didn't she? Labeled like I heard a rumor.
Yeah, it was a really weird thing, and then she was just kind of like justifying. It's like justifying HasLabs in her actual statement, which. It was a really bizarre post. But I suppose she was kind of, I don't know, it just felt very justification-y.
I think that the problem is there are so many communities now on Reddit, on Facebook, on Instagram, like all these different kind of platforms have different communities, and there are a lot of Legends communities. We've been member of a handful for years and years now. And I think like anything, as lines grow and as lines age, people kind of, I don't know, their opinions and their thoughts and their kind of demands kind of grow and change and all the rest of it. And to me, it just felt very much like the post was kind of answering these questions that get asked time and time again, that people kind of make. Rumors, probably a good word for it, actually, which Emily used, like rumors that people float around for HasLab. And I don't think it's helped that some HasLabs, previous HasLabs that haven't done particularly well, or as well as they maybe should have ended up on other sites in the secondary market. Like even in the last 6 months, we've seen HasLabs on pretty much all of the UK retailers' websites, bar a couple. We've seen them on places like Amazon, Zavvi, eBay, like, anywhere that you can essentially buy the product, these HasLabs have turned up. And I think that's kind of confused people's mentality of what HasLabs are.
Yeah.
In its core, the idea of the HasLab is to crowdfund a bigger thing that wouldn't normally be put into production. And I think Hasbro are a victim of its own success because they're pumping out so many HasLabs that people are almost just seeing them as big money items that are coming out once a year. Whereas the original idea was kind of like, you know what, we'd really love to make this, but we're only going to be able to make it if so many people pledge a commitment to buying it. Which is cool when you think about it as a concept. I think if other brands did it, if, I could list a whole dozen other toy brands, but if other toy and action figure brands did it, I think that they would all kind of be successful. A handful of them have tried it, haven't they? Like Mattel, for example, have done the Jurassic Park gates, but they didn't get funded. Is it Super 7 that are doing the Thundercat lair? So they have tried these things, whereas Hasbro have pumped out so many and on a regular basis that people are now just seeing them as an expectation as opposed to a novelty.
Mattel, I think, have cracked it now because they don't do they do the big ones like the gates that didn't fund sadly, but they have had several other ones that did fund. But then they also do like limited runs as well as a part of Mattel Creation. So like I got the doll up top, the what's she called, Annabelle doll, and that wasn't a crowdfunding. It wasn't a case of we need so many backers to make it. It was just a case of if you want it, it's going to be 65 to 70 quid. And basically, we're going to do a limited run of them around Halloween. So I, pre-ordered one, and then it arrived relatively quick. As soon as they sort of said, "Yeah, we're going to put it into production," done. It arrived within a few weeks. It was very quick turnaround. It wasn't like the long wait that Hasbro do, which just felt nicer. So it was like there was a very like the whole from concept to hand was like less than 3 months.
Yeah, and that's cool. That is cool.
And I had it in hand ready for Halloween, and she's on the shelf, and she's awesome.
Yeah.
I just think I wish Hasbro would do something similar to that. Like they can do the giant HasLabs and the big, but Giant Man could have literally just been who wants one, and if they get enough people say yeah, then they'll just do a limited run. It didn't need to be this whole back it, we'll give you tiers and do this, that, and t'other. It should have just been a case of we're going to do a Giant Man. It's going to be a limited edition on Hasbro Pulse. That's it.
Yeah. Like for me, if we're talking like Marvel, I think that the HasLab project peaked at the Sentinel because it was fresh, it was new still. For Marvel Legends, it was the first in the line. It was the first time that they'd introduced this in the line. And I think that they kind of peaked with that and they kind of should have stopped there. I mean, Galactus was, again, a success, but it was much more of a hard sell, whereas Sentinel, everyone was on it. So much so that the last tier wasn't even produced and they had to show you renderings. And then they added an extra one just to say thank you because it just sold over and above. The interesting thing from Emily's post, and I'll read it out, that for me that stood out is it said that no orders against HasLab can be placed after the campaign closes. We only manufacture the number of HasLabs that are ordered by fans, plus a small additional number to cover any consumer care-related needs that are used directly by Hasbro. Backing a HasLab during the campaign is the only, in capitals, way to get that product. The same item will never be offered as an exclusive or mainline item later down the road, but individual consumers can purchase up to 5 HasLabs via their Hasbro Pulse account. Once purchased, it's up to those... they become personal property and Hasbro cannot control what happens to them if and where they may be sold in the future. And that's the bit that I kind of feel a little bit kind of justifying is that there are all these HasLabs showing up on other websites. And I think that it was kind of a way of saying, this isn't us producing it and passing it on. This is them picking them up and reselling them. But places that are bigger, like Zavvi and Amazon, it seems odd that they're not going to go out and buy 10 just to.
No, I think Hasbro did because, like she says there, they've got the ones because obviously they've got to be able to supply. Say if they sell 4,000, just rough estimate, 4,000, right? Galacticus.
Yeah.
And 1,000, like a good chunk of those end up with a manufacturing defect. They have to replace them by law. So they're going to have to manufacture above what they sell to cover incidentals. Once about 6 months has passed, you can then claim it. You can then put it down to its general wear and tear. You've had it 6 months; it's no longer warrantable. So that those after a certain amount of time, it's like Hasbro have gone, well, we don't need this stock anymore. We've had the returns we're going to have. We're not going to get any more returns, so I can sell these units on. And I think that's where the stuff has come from for. People like Kapow, I don't think would pick up secondhand stuff to sell on as new. I can't see them doing it. They're too reputable. No. I do it because I'm a dick. But like Kapow would, they wouldn't do something like that. And so
places like Zavvi wouldn't as well, though. I mean, I know people have their issues with Zavvi, but they're not going to sell secondhand stock as new.
And neither do Amazon. Not if it's sold and supplied by Amazon. No. That's all brand new stock because they liquidate and do the whole pallet thing. So.
Exactly. And that's, I think, showing up on Amazon is probably where it kind of ruffled a few feathers for people because it was like all of the independents, okay, they could go, you know what, here's the money, everybody buy 5, we'll get the stock in, we'll mark it up 100 quid and make some money off of it. Makes sense. If I had a shop that was open, I'd probably do the same kind of thing because that these items are potentially going to sell. But somewhere like Amazon aren't going to kind of go, you know what, here's 50 Amazon employees, here's the money, buy them, and let's put them in stock. It's just not going to happen. And then there's the issue as well that what happens if you buy it from Amazon and you get a defect or you get an issue with it because you've bought it as new from Amazon, but they're going to send you to Hasbro for consumer care, but then Hasbro are going to throw you back to Amazon because that's where you bought it. So if you're buying one of these HasLab projects somewhere else, there isn't a stock to replace any issues. So how does that work?
Straight return refund.
Yeah. So it's a weird one. It is a weird one, but I don't know. I just think it should have been kept as a more special thing. Like, I'm happy that, for the things like the Ghost, there's the market for it, but there's been enough failed HasLabs as there have been ones that have been mega successful. And when I say successful, I don't mean kind of funded. I mean like mega successful. So yeah, I don't know. It's a weird one. It is a weird one, but I mean, you've never been a fan of HasLabs anyway, have you?
I'm not a massive fan of HasLabs. If I was still collecting, because if I was still doing the Marvel Legends thing, to be honest, I may have gone for Giant Man just because I did like the fact that I had a classic Avengers lineup. That ended up being one of my favorite parts of my collection at one point. Like, I had classic Hawkeye, classic Captain America. I even had the clunky looking old school Iron Man in the bright yellow and red, and I was trying to find one of each character that looked like they did back in the day in the comics, and like I had the original blue and white Wasp and things like that in my collection. And to be fair, he would have fit that beautifully. He would have looked good on the shelf with them. So I probably would have gone for him. He may have been, because it's only 200 quid as well. He probably would have been my first HasLab.
You reckon? Wow. I mean, I've been on the fence about it. I mean, I've not backed it because I'm not interested in backing it at the moment. But yeah, and they are big. They're big. They are really big. It's like the Sentinel I've got, I like, but it takes up like half of my cabinet. I can only position a handful of figures around it. It's cool, but again, like, there was such a buzz about that Sentinel. It feels like something I want to have. But yeah,
this is why when I did the new room, I had the giant shelf open. I made sure I left a big space here on both sides.
Yeah,
so I could put the Headless Horseman. I could have the big dolls and stuff. So I knew I had a spot. I've got all my 7-inch shelves down here that are just shy of about 8 inches. But then I've got these. I left a good 20 inches there, so in case I got anything ridiculous that I can just put in there.
I need some big shelves, definitely.
And then I left the upper shelves open for big dolls and stuff up top.
It's looking good, man. Looks like a scary place to sleep, though.
Everyone says that when they come in. I was like, how do you sleep in here? Because like bang above my bed is Chucky and Tiffany just staring at me.
Yeah, like, you've only got to have one of them fall, like, and knock a couple over, and you're going to be having nightmares for weeks.
I should not have moved this camera because I'm going to have... There we go.
Oh, it's moving. We're gone, Ray.
Annabelle, no.
Hey, she's out. So yeah, like, this is where the bars come across your camera now, and we lose signal.
Stop turning. What's it doing?
Why is it
doing it? It's never done this. I shouldn't have touched. Have touched mid-show.
Watch. Here we go. Yeah, we're good. We're good. We're good. It moved a little bit, but yeah, we're good. So all right, let's talk, because it's interesting you saying about like being in, like, you used to have Marvel Legends. I know you did, and
I had nearly every Marvel Legend, including most of the Toy Business. I went on a rampage at one point on the groups, and I was buying up stock like no one's business. I was the one that was like, anyone got a 10-year-old Patriot they don't want anymore? I was that guy. No, I need Nightcrawler from X-Men 2. I literally had everything, and I was loving it, to be honest. I loved Marvel Legends for a long time. For me, it was the point where they started releasing all the characters again, and the ones that weren't around very long either. It weren't like it was old stuff that needed replacing. It was new stuff that had just come out a month ago, and we were starting to see repeats. And it was around it was about that time when the whole Spider-Man anniversary was going on, and I just had a massive look at my collection and was like, this is getting out of hand. And I was collecting characters that I didn't even like just to review them and get them out because I felt like I was in a race with people like yourself and Dan Who and all the other guys. It was like, especially when Dave was around, Dave would message me and go, beat you to it. And like, he would send me messages to like to have a joke with me. But I used to take that so freaking personally. And like, because I was like, I'm the original, I've been around so much longer than you people. And like, I would sit there like, as a King Dick thinking, oh, we're awesome. And I just got to a point where I just couldn't keep up anymore. I was like, nah, can't do it. And then they started putting out deluxes, special edition boxes. Everything started going up to about $24.99. At that point, I was like, nah, I'm out. I'm done.
I know. I remember the day when you'd be able to get a wave for like under 100 quid.
Like, and that was like the Savage World wave and the original Netflix wave. They were such cool characters. It's not like people can say they were cheaper characters back then because they weren't. We had like the Sauron Bath figure and all the X-Men, and I remember opening them, and I was one of the first on the groups to open that because everyone watched me do it on a friggin' live stream, and most of the group was there on Marvel Legends Community UK. I remember that day, and everyone was like, "How have you got these early?" And I'm like, "Because I paid for imports because I'm an idiot." Yeah. And I used to pay in demand through the nose to get imports just to have them early.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, there wasn't like I've been collecting Marvel Legends for a long time, and at one point I looked at my collection. I went, you know what? I'm only going to have everything. I think it was like since 2014 that I think that's when they changed their logo, and I'm pretty sure, or they changed the Infinite series or whatever it was. But I was kind of like, that's my definitive mark. Anything before then can go, and I'm going to keep everything from then and carry on collecting. And I literally had everything from 2014, maybe 2013, but 2013, 2014, whatever onwards, I had literally everything. Like everything that came out, I was either getting it sent, I was purchasing, whatever it was, and just the collection was building and building and building. And I absolutely loved it. But then, like you say, it got to a stage where I think that for me, not even that long ago, remember when the Cuckoos came out? The Cuckoos.
Oh, yeah.
And they were really hard to get hold of, like really hard to get hold of. And it was one of them things that, actually, let's go a bit further back than that. I think it was the Infinity War. No, the Worthy Captain America, the MCU Worthy Captain America. It was on the groups, like the stores were posting, we're going to go live at this time for this pre-order. Yeah. Jump on board, make sure you get it. And it was, you had to pre-order. If you didn't pre-order, you didn't get these figures. And kind of a bit further before then, if you didn't pre-order, you weren't getting it. It was a case of if you wanted those figures, you had to pre-order them. And there was kind of value in that, and not monetary value, but value in the collection. That is kind of like, you know what, I'm pre-ordering these, I'm adding them to my collection, because once the next wave came out, or once the next bunch of figures came out, that one was gone. Like if those 10 pre-orders or whatever it was had been taken up, they were gone. You were one of the 10 that had them. And there was value in that as a collector, because you felt like you had something that was of value. And as I said, when I say value, I don't mean like monetary, because they were cheaper to buy then than they are now. Yeah. So they were cheaper in value, really. And things like the Toys R Us wave, the Jubilee Build-A-Figure Toys R Us wave with Strife and Storm and Cyclops and stuff in it, they were really, really hard to get hold of over here in the UK. And so they held a higher price ticket, but they were just really hard to get hold of. And there was something really cool as a collector to kind of go, you know what, I've got 2 of those in my collection. I couldn't get all of them, but I've got these 2 in my collection because I've traded with people in the groups, or I've bought something on eBay and swapped that with someone else. And there was a real kind of, I'll give you 2 of mine, you give me 1 of yours, or actually go and speak to this person because they've got that. And do you know what I mean? And there was that real kind of thing. Whereas that doesn't happen nowadays, because there's so much of everything. There's no uniqueness to any of the collecting elements of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Because I remember when the Cuckoos came out, because I was like, I'm going to need 3 of them. And then somebody like, there was more clones than that. And so you start looking up in your comics and go, shit, 5 of them.
Yeah.
But I remember because mine took ages to get because I got the 3 cuckoos, but then I wanted the Emma Frost heads for them, the short bobbed blonde hair, because I wanted them to look like Esme and that from the comic books. I wanted the blonde traditional looking ones. So it took me ages to track them down. And then somebody went, do you know what? That Emma Frost head look even better on the female X-Men black and yellow body. Then they would really look like the cuckoos from the comics. I'm like, you're right. So then I started tracking down more of them because I needed 3 of those anyway, because I needed Wolfsbane and I needed those 3 anyway.
Yeah.
But then it was like, oh shit, now I need 6 of them.
Yeah.
And it just and I remember at the time, this is the thing. At the time, nobody was like putting in the comments like, bloody Hasbro, greedy gets, doing this to make us buy more. That wasn't even a thing. People were just so excited to have those characters that you paid through the nose to get these bodies and didn't even care how much you were spending because you wanted them. It was like a thrill of the chase back then.
That's it. Whereas, that's perfect explanation of it. But I was the same with the cuckoos. It was like, and they're not even an exciting looking figure. They're essentially like a schoolgirl uniform. But for anyone that read the comic books, it was the cuckoos. Like you needed to have the 5. Like that was it. And I was really fortunate. I got friends out in the States from where I worked out there and stuff. And I was like, listen, you need to get to they were Walgreens, weren't they?
Walgreens, yeah.
You need to go to your Walgreens for me and just check to see if they've got these. And I managed to get 4 and I couldn't get the 5th. And then one of my friends in the States was like, her other half was in LA and she was in New York at the time, and they were both checking Walgreens for me. And then they sent me a picture of it, and it turned up like 3 or 4 days later. And I was like, "This is amazing! Like, I have friends on the other side." There you go, Disney. I've got this connection, and they've managed to get me that 5th cuckoo. And even now, they're sought after. They're like, they're not, because they were hard to get, but there was such an element of months worth of collecting around this kind of small group of 5 really basic looking figures that even now kind of hold a good part in your collection. But there's part of me that is half expecting Hasbro to turn around tomorrow with a 5-pack deluxe PulseCon exclusive. And then all of a sudden it kind of goes, yeah, well, there you go. There goes all of that. And I get it for new collectors, because anyone that wasn't collecting in that time, to get 5 of those figures is going to be a difficult ride. But at the same token, you've got those 2 sides of the coin, haven't you? You've got all the people that were there who kind of invested the time, the money, and the effort to get them. And then you've got those that haven't been able to get them. But back in the day when, beforehand, we were all new collectors at one point, and Hasbro weren't re-releasing figures from a year before, 2 years before to kind of satisfy our needs. We had to buy them on the groups. We had to pay through the nose. We had to trade. We had to, trade up and stuff. So I kind of do get the whole, great for new collectors, but there are always going to be new collectors. And even the new collectors now that are lucky enough to pick up these repackages and re-releases, in a year's time or even 6 months' time, they're going to be kind of going, well, I don't need that one. Why are you re-releasing it again with an extra head or something,
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's a difficult one, but I think that's where my passion for the collection has gone. That it feels like it's all very fragile and it's not worth the investment anymore, the time investment.
Yeah. So for me as well, one of the big things that I wanted to sort of chat about tonight as well was a lot of people do ask me like what happened with my collection, because it suddenly went from everything to like one. I've like proper zoned in on what I want to collect. And obviously I was the ride or die Star Wars guy. I always have been. I've always loved Star Wars. I've collected it my entire life. But Hasbro just drove me into the ground with it a little bit, and it just made me feel like I don't want to collect this line anymore. It got to the point where every single wave had 4 different versions of a clone trooper in it. I was like, how many clone troopers do I need? Now, at one point, I literally looked and I had a shelf. If you remember, I had the shelves around the room, and literally the entire bottom shelf all the way around the room was taken up with clone troopers, just clone troopers.
Oh, really?
Then I had the bad guys line, and then I had the heroes on the top. And that was, I'm looking at my shelf one day, I'm thinking, I've got like at least 60 different variants of clone trooper, stormtrooper. Purge Trooper, whatever you want to call them. And I was like, that's too many. It's silly. And then I like, do I like strip it down and maybe just keep the Sith and Jedi? And then they started doing the whole, we're going to release deluxe box sets, special box sets. The nail in the coffin for me with the Black Series was when I was collecting the Galaxy's Edge stuff, and I thought to myself, well, maybe I'll just keep the Galaxy's Edge figures. And then I've always been an advocate of Galaxy's Edge, and I've always said they should release more of the figures from the line, from the storyline. And they released Doc-Ondar, and I was wanting a Doc-Ondar for ages, especially after going to Galaxy's Edge. They finally release him, and they shove him in that ridiculous box for about 60 quid, make him really hard to get. And I was just like, I'm done. I'm out. I'm done. I can't justify that price for one little figure that they're going to release in 6 months' time, just as a regular alien version of that species. And I'm like, I can't do it.
No.
Just this Doc-Ondar, they're going to charge 60 quid. And that just felt greed to me a little bit on the Star Wars front. So I was instantly out. And I literally decided at that point, I was literally falling out of love a little bit with Star Wars anyway at that point. And even though Mando and stuff was on the TV, I was like, I don't need the plastic representation anymore. No. So I still love Star Wars. People who say to me, do you not love Star Wars anymore? I was like, no, I love Star Wars. I love going to the parks and I love Galaxy's Edge. But I don't need the plastic figures to tell me that. And I've felt the same now for Marvel. It's like, I love Marvel. I still read the comics. I've got thousands of comics in front of me. I love them. But I don't need the plastic representation of every single character.
No. I think that's for me, I've collected so many lines over the years. And at one point, I had Power Rangers on the go. I had Black Series on the go. I had Marvel Legends on the go. I had DC animated Batman on the go. I had Lego on the go as well. Like, I had all these different lines, and I was very quickly running out of space. And I was kind of like, you know what? I'm going to chunk it down to my first love, which was Marvel. Like, that's what I'm going to do. So that's where I just kind of stripped back everything else and just focused on Marvel. But the problem is that then when the MCU then got introduced, and then there was MCU and comic book, and so you would have like all the different versions of like in the films, obviously people are changing costumes and hair and all that kind of stuff all the time. So when the MCU figures first got released, it was, well, here's your Captain America, here's your Black Widow, all that kind of stuff. Whereas now they are churning them out so quickly and so, you know, in such abundance that we just seem sport for choice. Like that one is all Iron Man. It's all MCU Iron Man in that shelf, and there's probably about 60 figures in there, and that's not all of them. That's the silly thing, is that they've kept releasing more, and I haven't got enough. And that kind of hit a nail for me, was that I was kind of like, actually, I've got that space that's dedicated to Iron Man, MCU Iron Man. It's my Hall of Armor, and I can't fit them all in there because there's too many. Same for this one here. This was all my Spider-Man, or is all my Spider-Man. Every single Spider-Verse character that you can imagine was in there from Marvel Legends, and now they're re-releasing them, they're redoing them, they're giving us different versions of them, and it was kind of like, it's too much. It's too much. This one as well, it's only just because it's on my shelf. It's literally by my hand. But this is a prime example of where the line's kind of gone a little bit skew-whiff here. So these are the two different figures. This is obviously the one that came in the card back, the vintage card back, which only came out 4 or 5 years ago, maybe.
Yeah.
Now that it didn't hold a huge aftermarket price anyway, if you wanted to pick one up. But then they re-released it as a store exclusive with, you know, be it a much better head sculpt, slightly better kind of proportions and all that kind of stuff. But if you're a completionist who's been collecting for a while, this one very quickly just becomes landfill. Like there's no one's going to want to buy that on the aftermarket if they can buy this one brand new. No one's going to want to trade this for anything, and it just very quickly becomes landfill. So what is the point in collecting something that goes out of date so quickly? Exactly. That's my thought with it now. And there are so many other lines and so many other collections out there that I think it's very difficult to warrant wanting to buy whole waves of figures now. when it comes to like things like Marvel Legends and Star Wars Black Series, because yes, you could just pick up the odd character because the waves of figures are just repeated all the time. Even to the extent as well where they've gone back to revisit the Infinity Saga line, and that was it was a really unique line. Like they did like a dozen figures. There was the Hulkbuster. There were some really big ones, really small ones, and it was all boxed up. So if you're an inbox collector, there was this nice collection, and all the boxes made a picture as well. If you put them all together, there was that nice picture that went along the side. And now they've kind of revisited that one by repackaging figures from before. And so, yeah, it's very awkward. I mean, I'm definitely thinning my collection down, but I will keep a probably about 100 figures, I reckon. It'll all depend, and I will still pick them up. I'm not like completely against the line. I think it's an amazing, you know, if we brand it as Hasbro in general, when it comes to like Black Series and Marvel Legends, I think they're incredible lines. And to live in an age where there are such good figures available to adult collectors and to be so commonly well accepted, I think is incredible. But for me, the value is just not in it anymore. Like I'd much rather spend a few £100 on a hot toy of a particular character than 3 waves of figures that I don't care about, and chances are going to get re-released in a couple of months anyway.
Yeah,
that's kind of where I'm at. No hate, just kind of
I'm the same. Another point for me was when they did the crossover lines with Power Rangers. I got dead excited for them. Pre-ordered them. The first thing I pre-ordered in months at that point. And that was when I came out of my little I'm not pre-ordering phase, and I pre-ordered a bunch of stuff, and I was so excited to get them in hand. And then it was like the Street Fighter ones didn't have unmasked heads, the Cobra Kai ones just felt clunky, the hip joints just didn't fit properly. They were all riddled with QC problems, one after another. Then I had that figure with G.I. Joe where her arms just fell off in the box.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, what is this? So I just at that point, I knew that I was like, right, I need to pull the plug now. And I remember literally, and it was the first time I've ever done this in my life, I literally opened a stacker box and just went across an entire line, and just put my entire figure waves into a box. And that's when it just turned into like this overnight in the spare room where I just put all the horror stuff up. I was like, right, I'm done. And everyone said to me, like, oh, you suddenly switched to horror. Now you want to be known as the horror guy. I'm like, I've always done horror. I mean, on my channel, if you look back, I reviewed all the original Pennywise figures, and as they come out, like I literally pre-ordered them all. I always had the horror stuff on the channel. It's just that back then, NECA was so few and far between with the releases. It was like once every 6 months you get a new figure in. So the horror stuff's always been on my channel. I've just now decided to focus on it, and that's what I'm enjoying. You got to remember as well, when I started YouTube, a bit like yourself, Jacob, when we first started this collection, I was in my early 20s. I'm now in my mid 30s. It's been a long freaking time collecting this line.
I didn't have any grey hair when I started collecting.
Exactly. I was still in my 20s and I lived at home, I think, when I first got my first one.
Yeah.
And it's a case of like, I've grown, my collection's grown with me, and my interests change over the thing. No one's going to stay into the same things forever. It's not a bad thing. People see it sometimes as a weird bad thing because YouTubers have changed. It's like we change just like you do. We're not robots.
Exactly.
I can't just do the Hasbro thing forever. So I've moved on.
Yeah.
And I'm enjoying what I'm doing now. For the first time in years, I will say I'm enjoying what I'm doing now. And the channel's growing greatly because of it, because I'm enjoying myself.
That's the thing. You've got to have fun with it. It's not a job. Like, you've got to have fun with what you're doing. And I think I'm the same. I've got to the stage where I'm like, you know what? Reviewing these figures, and it used to be a case of that I'd review a figure, I'd take photos of figures, I would customize figures, and now I'm kind of just getting them and putting them on the shelf, and it's kind of like, really, is it? It's not worth it, is it? But there are certain characters like Spider-Man, for example, I absolutely adore, and that 3-pack of Spider-Man, much as people kind of complained about it and there were issues about it and stuff, I absolutely love it. And I'm sure you saw the Green Goblin leak on the groups.
Oh, yeah.
Looks like an incredible figure. And I will 100% be down for all of the No Way Home figures that are undoubtedly going to get announced at PulseCon. Like, I will be all over those, very excited, grab hold of them. But when it comes to the regular kind of stuff, it's like, yeah, I'll pick it up where and whereabouts. But I think the pre-order element of it is definitely it's definitely a shift. And I don't know whether that's just because they're producing more figures or just there's more availability. But there was a time where you had to be able to pre-order it. You had to have the kind of the money in your pocket or whatever, and you'd have to be able to pre-order it or pick it up on the shelf when you saw it in order to secure it. Whereas now, like you say, you didn't pre-order for like over a year and you still got everything that you wanted to get. And there was a time in your collecting days that you were not able to do that. Like, you know, and when you look at something like the Headless Horseman that you mentioned, you had to pre-order that. If you didn't pre-order it, you missed
wouldn't
it.
get him.
And that's kind of what it was like with Marvel Legends back in the day. I think for me as well, one last point was the Fantastic Four. Marvel's first family. If you're a Marvel fan, Marvel collector, Fantastic Four is, you've got to have some aspect of the Fantastic Four in your collection just to kind of signify the beginning of it all, kind of thing. And you had the Walgreens Fantastic Four that were all individual figures. It wasn't like a wave. It wasn't a builder figure to the wave. They were just Walgreens exclusive. You had the Silver Surfer. You had all four members of the family. And that was it. That was it, wasn't it? No, the Silver Surfer came actually a little bit later. You got the four members of the family separately. And I was out in the States at the time when these dropped, and I drove around to all these different Walgreens and managed to pick them up on the shelf at retail. And even to this day, that costume, that lineup is still quite sought after because it's their original look. It's their, or at least their more original look. But in my collection now, I've got like 4 versions of the Fantastic Four. And I'm like, I looked at it and I was like, I don't need 4 Fantastic Fours. Like, that's mental. Like, that's insane. But yeah, so, but then I'm worried. I'm kind of like, you know what? They're going to re-release that costume again at some point, and then all of a sudden it goes. But there are definitely figures that I'll pick up in the future, like the X-Men ones, for example, the No Way Homes, the Marvel Knights. Like, they're all ones that I'm very excited for. But as for the rest, yeah.
I mean, I've still got the Midnight Suns that are on this shelf up here that I can't really show you because I don't want to mess the camera up again. But yeah, the Midnight Suns are just up here. I've still got Wendigo as well. I kept Wendigo because he's a monster, so he kind of fits in with what I collect. So I've got Wendigo up there. I've got Man-Thing, Ghost Rider, Morbius. I've still got the original 4 of the monster from the box sets. You know, the Werewolf by Night, Dracula, and I love those. And like that new Blade that's coming out, I'm all over that. I'm gonna get him. And I'm on the fence. I might get the, because they've only announced the one Midnight Suns video game character so far in the Iron Man, haven't they? That's the only one they've announced so far.
It was a random one, wasn't it?
That's the thing. It's like, do I jump on it now or do I, and then risk not? You know what I mean? 'Cause like, it'll be my luck that they'll release the rest of the wave in a bit, and then I'll have to be hunting the Iron Man down for years trying to find the damn thing.
See, that's another good point actually. Like completing teams. That they would release, like the Life Foundation, for example. It was literally like what, 6 years or something like that, 7 years completing it from the first member coming out, and then that last box set that we got recently, that Amazon box set, to complete that team. And that's kind of how it was before, that, you know, they would release one figure randomly in a wave and then you would be hoping for it, or, you know, would it show up? Whereas now it seems a lot more that they try to pump out as many as they can in a wave or two to complete those teams and round those teams off. Whereas I think the aspect of collecting was kind of like, you know what, this particular group is someone that I really like and I want to invest in collecting that. So yeah, it's a weird one, isn't it? It is definitely a weird one.
Do you remember when those exclusive Hasbro Pulse boxes dropped for Sue Storm? You had the classic Sue Storm, and then you could get the see-through variant on the big card.
Yeah.
And they were like, she came in the big white box and stuff. And I remember at the time, I paid probably about $30, £30, whatever it was, for each one. So that was a £60 purchase for 2 of the Sue Storms. And I remember me and you both going, but we need to customize these to turn, to make 1-2 Storm look more transparent, and to have them as the shifting version of her. And that I remember doing it and being so proud of myself. Like, this is amazing. It's the first time I proper kit bashed it. I was like really amazed at myself. And to sit there and share it, she was on my shelf for ages. And it's like that is a 60 quid kit bash technically.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden she appeared for like $11.99 in game. I was like, you.
Less than that as well. I saw her for like, I'm sure I saw her for like £6 in game.
Although you wouldn't believe it if you went to the Comic Cons I go to, because so many people have them in stock now for 15 quid.
Of course they did. Interestingly though, customization as well. That's another thing. That 2 more points on this kind of subject I think we need to touch. Customization and customizing used to be a huge part of the community. Like, there are still some fantastic customizers out there, and there are still some brilliant. I mean, I'm literally looking now at 30 boxes that are just parts, heads, bodies, joints. Like, I've got boxes and boxes just like this. That's just
I'm the same.
limbs. Like, literally, it's even marked up limbs. Because you would customize, and there was such a huge part of the community that went with that this person's able to get this character and this character and make this character, and that was a big part of the hobby for me. Was, I don't mind, like, I'm happy collecting the lower priced figures because I can then create other ones and I can customize them and do those kind of things, whereas the higher end figures, you wouldn't be buying kind of 3 or 4 of them to customize one. And it was a case of that, you would do something and you would create something, and that would get people talking. So, for example,
it's like Chamber came out, wasn't it? Me and you instantly said it. As soon as Chamber came out, we both looked at each other and went, "That's a Ghost Rider right there."
Ghost Rider, yeah. And if it wasn't for it being like a Nicolas Cage Ghost Rider, and that's a really good example, because a Nicolas Cage Ghost Rider, it is very unlikely that you're going to get a figure of him anytime soon. So to invest in that as a custom makes sense, because you're like, I'm not going to get that figure, so I'm going to make him instead. Whereas things like the quantum suits, for example, is one of my favorite custom projects, and I bought so many different versions of those quantum suits and repainted them to be more screen accurate based on the trailer. As soon as that trailer dropped and we saw they were in white suits, but the figure we got was grey, the paints came out, and it was a race against time. And there was me and a couple of other people that kind of all got them out around about the same time. And then I went on and I made Hulk, I made War Machine, I made the full lineup, and they still sit in my collection now. I don't know where are they? They are in that one. Yes, you can't see the light, but they're literally there at the back, and they still sit in my collection now. And we've not had those; they've not re-released them. But when it comes to customizing, it was kind of, you had that time because you knew that the figure wasn't necessarily going to come out. Whereas they are now trying to produce everything so quickly that we're getting figures come out of characters that we haven't even seen yet. So, like, is it not Giant Man? Which one is it? Goliath. That we've got a What If Goliath figure and a Gamora in the Thanos armor figure, and we've not even seen them on screen yet. So we're getting figures before we're even getting the intellectual property. What is it? The character, however you want to word it. So for customization, it's kind of like, well, what's the point? Like, why there's nothing left for me to customize? Like, it's, and part of the fun was kind of going, yeah, that character looks cool, and I've got the ability to do it. This part and that part will make this part, but nothing's safe anymore. So it's even going back and doing characters that, like, deep dive characters that are in the comic books. The chances are they're going to just release them, they're going to be part of something. So that part of the fun's kind of gone, and I think that a big part of the community element of it has gone. Like, there was a time where people would be kind of like we said earlier, oh, I've got this one and this one. Okay, well, I'll swap it for that one. And, oh, if you see this one out and about, can you pick it up for me? Whereas, yes, there are still people that do that, but it's a much more saturated kind of looser community. Whereas there are certain people that I met years ago in the community groups that I still talk to now because there was that bonding element, whereas it seems a lot less nowadays.
General now, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I completely get that, and I completely agree with you. The whole, I mean, lockdown was the peak. I think lockdown was the peak of collecting.
Yeah,
and then
it was.
We got a load of new people into the scene. We got a load of new YouTubers pop up that grew very quickly. We got a lot of new friends and things pop up online. But then a lot of those people vanished very quickly as soon as real life kicked in again.
Yeah. No, I agree. I do agree. And like I said, I know you're not, and I'm not. We're not bashing anything. I just think, for me, I just think that the Hasbro Marvel Legends line, for me, has kind of reached that point where I'm just going to have what I want to have, as opposed to, yes, please give me everything.
You've kind of reached the point that I was at about 6 months ago. You've hit that same wall that I hit, and I was like, I'm done now. And I've got to admit, I've never looked back. I've kept the ones that I like, but now I've moved on. I'm enjoying my Mythic Legions. I've got into Trick or Treat Studios. I've continued to collect the NECA as kind of like, NECA's now my new Hasbro. They're the ones that churn out the figures. Every few months you get a couple of figures drop, and that keeps me sane. But I'm happy to wait for like Mythic Legions to drop their couple of yearly drops and get something like Krampus on my shelf, and the figures that you wouldn't think you'd ever own, and like Mezco. I've started getting into Mezco quite a lot, and they're more expensive, so they're like the cost of what used to be a wave now. But it's just whatever you like collecting. I've kind of moved up a little bit, if you will. Dropped the Hasbro lines that costed quite a bit and quite regularly costed quite a bit to like I've been able to buy like the Bride. She was like 120. Sam was 200. I've got the Trick or Treat. I've got the Spirit Halloween Bride of Chucky. She was like 60. So I've been buying figures that cost me more, which I never thought I'd do. I always said back in the day, I like getting a wave for like X amount of money and having like 7 videos to make a week. I've really scaled that back and just gone for what I'm actually enjoying, and I'm liking what I'm doing now.
I think for creators as well, that's the short form content has definitely helped with that, because we can do more, whereas it used to be there was that obligation to provide something. Do you know what I mean? With, well, I've got these figures, I'm going to share this and I'm going to do that, because not everyone would have them. So here's me showing you what they are, whereas now everyone does have them. I think for me, it was a case of the last few waves of Marvel Legends I've got are still in the box.
Yeah. And the thing is, for me, when it comes to the whole YouTube thing as well, was there are people out there that knew a lot, that obviously like yourself and that knew a lot more than me than I could ever share. Like, I didn't have the knowledge really. I just enjoyed what I enjoyed and I just played around. But as soon it got to a point where you had people like Dave popping up, and Dave's knowledge was just second to none about comics, and he just knew his stuff. And like the way he presented it, he like people that were coming up were like taking inspiration from the YouTubers that were out there just making themselves better, which I don't blame them. Awesome, go for it. But I was like, I need to change up my channel, so I went with the short form content. And you know what? That seems. I wish short form was available when I first started, because I do fit the short form bubble. I think in long form content, I can be quite annoying and loud and in your face, YouTuber annoying. Whereas I think in a 30-second burst, people deal with that a bit better. You can kind of deal with it, knob it on your screen for 30 seconds, screaming in your face. Whereas a bit 20 minutes of it's a bit much.
Speaking of other properties as well, Stug said there about the Marvel Select. Sue Storm head sculpt blowing away the Marvel Legends one, and it's interesting because obviously working with Diamond Select recently, like I've always loved the Select figures, but I didn't display them as much because it was kind of like, well, I've got this one Carnage and I've got a whole shelf of symbiotes, but this one Carnage won't fit in that shelf, so I'll have to put that Carnage somewhere else. Whereas the actual kind of figure as a display piece is much better in the Select. So by scaling that back, I can actually display that as a centerpiece more than just kind of shoving it in the back somewhere. And Diamond Select covering so many different franchises as well has given me an opportunity to actually start collecting things that I would have looked over before, because like Nightmare Before Christmas, absolutely love it. absolutely love Night Before Christmas. Diamond Select do the figures, and I've now got a near complete set of the Diamond Select Nightmare Before Christmas figures that I can proudly display as they are, because that's something I love. It's weird, isn't it? It's a weird kind of conversation, and it's a weird kind of thought process, but I think that there's a lot of complaints going on at the moment about Hasbro and other toy lines as well, but we don't collect those. But I think there's a sea of change coming. I think there is definitely going to be a bit of a mix up in the way that we're presented these figures.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, it's interesting one. But yeah, that was went on a bit of a tangent there. Went on a bit of a bit of a talk, but no, it is interesting. It's good, and I'm quite enjoying selling up, to be honest with you. And it's actually bringing me quite a bit of joy in a weird kind of way. I cleared off a couple of these are my deep dive shelves, for example. So I had some really obscure characters on there of figures that they released kind of 10 years ago or whatever, and putting them up for sale and seeing people kind of snap them up and selling them for like pretty decent prices. I'm not like trying to scout people or anything like that. Like, I don't think I've seen these figures as cheap as I've put them up as. Because I'm just quite pleased to put them in someone else's collection, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I do the same thing. So obviously, I do all the conventions and stuff. And basically, when I first started doing that, I used to call myself SuperSorrell Secret Stash. I used to call it in homage to the Secret Stash store in New Jersey or New York, wherever it is. Jay and Silent Bob store. So I called it SuperSorrell Secret Stash because I was like, this is SuperSorrell's collection that I'm selling off. So people used to dig that and would come over and would know me from YouTube and. Because obviously there's a lot of local conventions, they all kind of know me and stuff. They'd come over and they'd buy things from my collection, and people would get a kick out of that. Like, they'd see things on the channel, then they'd be like, "Oh, you're selling that one?" I'm like, "Yeah," and they'd buy it from me. And I've got to know a lot of people over the years because of that. And I still do that to today. I still enjoy it, but obviously I had to change my name to Super Toys because somebody once said, "You do realize they call it Secret Stash because drugs?" I'm like, let's change that name. It's not a secret stash.
It's just figures. It's
figures, no hash. So yeah, it's but yeah, I mean, I enjoy doing it. I love going to the. I used to sell online, but then I had a few problems on like eBay, and I got scammed a few times, and I got a bit meh about it. So I started doing the convention scene, and I enjoy that now. My wife runs the stall. I get to go play around a convention hall all day.
Yeah,
it's something we both enjoy doing now together.
Speaking of conventions, before we do round the show up, I am going to MCM Comic Con. I am going there on the Saturday. I got a ticket direct from MCM. Actually, I'm going down. It's on the 20. I'm going on the 28th. So what's that? 27th, 28th, and 29th is of October. And
October.
I've got a creator pass. They've given me a creator pass.
Nice.
Last year I went as press. This year I'm going as a creator. Next year, who knows? But I'm really excited. I'm going down with my mate, and we're going to go and just clear it out. But I'm not quite sure what I'm going to focus my attention on, because every year I've always kind of had, even with the conventions, I was kind of on a legends hunt. It was like, right, I need to find this character. I need to find this character. Whereas now I know I can just pre-order them the day before if I wanted something. So I'm really excited about going, because I'm going to go on a hunt, actually go on a hunt and pick up some stuff that just I like the look of, as opposed to looking for particular things. But I want to kind of get some content based around the fact that I've got Creator Pass as well. So I need to kind of create something. But yeah, I'm definitely going. So I'm sure I'll do a video or two based on that. But yeah, I'm going as a creator. So I'm really well excited for that one. Well excited.
Yeah, next year I'm planning. I really want to do, because I'm doing the Halloween Horror Nights at Universal Studios, but a couple of times a year they also do a convention in Orlando called Spooky Empire. Yeah, it's one of the biggest horror conventions on the East Coast, and every year I look at it and go, I really love to go to that. And my wife went, "Why don't you go?" Because I'm so used to going out there. I know where I am when I'm in Orlando these days. I don't have the back of my hand. I've been that much. Which I know I'm very lucky, but my wife was like, "Why don't you just go?" Because I'm like, "Well, what do you not want to go?" She's like, "Well, no, because I'm not bothered about the horror stuff." So I've got a free pass to go to Orlando for 4 days. I'm like, "See ya."
That's amazing. That is
yeah,
amazing.
I'm tempted just to go solo and just vlog the crap out of it, and just me running around a conventional.
Do it. I've always said that I want to go out and do San Diego Comic Con. But
Do you know what? That is the dream. I would love me and you to plan to frigging do San Diego and go and vlog the crap out of San Diego Comic Con. That would be amazing. Cool, Two Brits abroad. We'd have to have a bloody documentary crew. Two Brits abroad.
Shitty BBC 4.
Yeah. Wouldn't even be that. It would be on Dave +1 or something.
On catch up. But I'm that's kind of my not dream. If I was gonna do a trip, I'd like to do it. Yeah, my geek goal. I think the problem is what with kids and stuff, it's kind of like I've kind of gone to myself, right, you know what? I'd need to at least wait till all the kids were in school. I'd need to wait till they were this age. So I've kind of mentally in my head kind of planned when I'll do it. And I'll be about 80, so it's fine.
This is the thing. San Diego's hard to do because of where it is. However, New York Comic Con is very doable.
There we go. And that was my thinking, is that New York does seem to be on the up and up in comparison to the San Diego Comic Con. San Diego Comic Con's kind of got that thing with it, though, hasn't it? But still, with New York is where I worked for 3 years, so I've got a lot of friends that I could visit, and I could kind of go away, do a kind of a week on my own or something, 4 days on my own, catch up with a whole bunch of old friends, do the Comic Con. So yeah, I mean, it's going to happen. But for now, I'll just go to MCM on a Saturday. It's a lot less effort. It's a drive for me. So yeah, definitely. But yeah, cool. We didn't do a giveaway and we didn't have a guest. So
no, and we didn't even mention that it's World Manta Day. Wow.
It's what?
World Manatee Day.
World Manatee Day.
Yeah. Manatees, save the manatees, man.
What has that got?
Because I'm like Dorian, I speak well.
But we will next week. Maybe we'll do a guest or a giveaway.
Keep saying that.
We'll just keep posting it. No, but we will. We will do a guest or a giveaway soon. Guest or a giveaway is coming up. I think this week we just wanted to rant. We wanted to talk. And obviously Ahsoka was brilliant, so we need to talk about that as well. Anything else you want to kind of finish up with? Is anything that you want to share? Anything happening?
So big thing for me, it's not really horror. It is Disney Locana, which is really hard to come by the way. People are really struggling to find these cards now. I remember I got mine from the little shop near me, but they host a competition every Friday and Saturday, and basically I'm going down on Friday night, and they've asked if I want to do a video, like to the one like film the whole thing. I'm like, hell yeah! So basically, I'm doing it in partnership with the little shop, and I'm going to film the whole competition basically and see how far I get in the competition on Friday night. So I'll be putting that video up over the next weekend. So I'm looking forward to doing that one.
I'm expecting you to win. You know that. Like,
I'm the villains. Villains don't last long. I'll be like Gaston and falling off the cliff at the end.
No, I don't. We're holding out. Yeah, I actually haven't got much going on this week. I've got a few sales to do. Not a huge amount going on figure wise.
No, yeah. I've got a whole box of Boo Hollow to play with at some point. But
cool. I literally have a whole box of things to unbox.
And 9 little Japanese gashapons.
No, man, they look cool. I've got a whole box of things to unbox, which I'm kind of putting off a little bit because they are cross franchises. They're different things. And now that I'm kind of clearing some space, I'm excited to kind of get them open. I did get my delivery of Optimus Prime from Fan Home this week. I've started posting the videos out of that, and that thing is taking shape. Like, it is going to be massive. So check out a couple of my videos on that because his foot's like this big. It's insane.
That's going to be big when it's done, though.
It's 60 centimeters supposedly, so it's not huge, but it's still going to be sizable.
Reasonable, yeah.
But the weight of it, no one's going to be able to steal it because it's going to weigh as much as a Transformer. I'll tell you that much. Cool. And I have got a video coming out soon where I do a review with my youngest son. Brought him on camera for the first time, so that's coming soon. But yeah, that's about it. Episode 117. If there's anything you want to hear us talk about, if there's anything you want us to discuss, then obviously put it in comments and all that kind of stuff. And let us know what's what. Alex Reed has just come in really quickly at the end and said, "Who sleeps in that room, Ash? Visitors or you?"
So this room is the spare room. It's the visitors' room, but no visitor wants to sleep in there when they come for obvious reasons. But no, do you know what this has been? This has been the room that I've got a massive telly on the wall in here as well. So this has literally been the man cave where I've now got a bed to lay on while I'm watching films. I never want to leave this room. On a night, my wife's like, "You coming to bed tonight?" I'm like, "I'm cool. I'm down here. I'm fine. I've got a whole bed to myself."
You are literally living the teenage boy's dream on adult money. Like, it's just.
I am literally. I feel like a kid. I'm sat in this room. I've got proper childish bedding on the bed as well.
That's amazing.
My wife's like, "No one's gonna want to sleep in there." I'm like, "If visitors come, no one's. They can't sleep with the chucky above the head. That'll just freak anybody out."
No, you need to get a life-size Annabelle cabinet. That's what you need to. Just the cabinet.
That's the kind of thing that would fit into my other stage area that I'm building. Oh, it's taking shape and it looks awesome in there.
Or even just get one built. Get someone to make one, like a life-size cat. You don't even have to have the doll. Just the empty Annabelle cabinet would be freaky enough. Let's be honest. That'd be cool. Yeah. Thanks very much. Seeing in your comments, people saying that they enjoyed the topic this week and it was a good week and that. So we do appreciate it when we have our little rant weeks that you guys enjoy it. If there is things that you want us to talk about in future episodes, next episode, then do let us know. Drop it in the comments. Drop it to me or Sorrell on Instagram, YouTube, wherever it is. Let us know. Yeah, good week. So next week, episode 118, we're going to talk about things that probably haven't happened yet. Do check us out on various different social media. All the handles are in the descriptions of the videos and all that kind of stuff. I'm not going to give you the spiel because everyone knows it by now. So I guess until then, keep it geek.